Drifting Through the Cosmos, Chapter 92. The Storm Rages On. Summary. Vibes in space, honey.
What the fuck is that?
Katsuki demands at Ochako once they're back in the bowels of the hive. The brunette looks a little taken aback, shuffling slightly behind Izuku. What do you mean? She asks, and even Mei can tell she sounds guilty. Katsuki levels her an unimpressed look.
You said there wasn't a catch. There's always a catch.
You're the one who wanted a planet without people, and this is the nicest death world I can find with actual information on it, Ochako says with a pout. It's not my fault there's freaky reverse thunderstorms.
Death world?
Denki squeaks. Mina raises an eyebrow at him. We literally live on one of the worst death worlds out there.
Oh, yeah, he says, embarrassed. I forget with how everyone seems to think they're so scary. Look at Mei and tell me things from death worlds aren't scary,
Katsuki says dully. Mei grins when Denki's yellow eyes drift over to her.
It'll be fine, you guys. We can just wait for the storm to end. It can't take that long, Izuku butts in.
Yeah, Ochako trails, her fingers tapping anxiously together. Mei narrows her eyes at the gravity girl. What not bee-related secrets do you know? Well, I might have read on the planet's file that half the year it had near constant inclement weather.
What the fuck, Ochako?
Katsuki barks. A sheep-sized bee putters over and lightly bumps its head against the frustrated blonde. He grumbles but moves to pet the bee. When I saw the planet, I thought it was the good weather part of the year, and the file didn't make it seem like it was this bad. This planet is the lowest class death world out there. I thought it would be fine, Ochako defended.
So we're stuck here for a year?
Denki squeaks, looking around at the luminescent hive. Ochako tapped her cheek. It said near constant. I doubt anything here could survive without sun for that long.
Fucking hell!
Katsuki facepalmed.
If this doesn't let out within a few days, I don't care about your fucking whining. We are going out there and getting out.
No, thank you, Mina says with a grimace, eyes shifting to the tunnel with the raging storm outside.
If it were up to me, we'd leave now, but I know you cowards want to wait, the blonde replied.
Okay, Ochako agrees. We'll give it a couple of days.
What about food?
Denki points out. The big bee buzzes, puttering over to the honeycomb wall of the hive. Space honey? Mei offers in response. She likes the idea of studying the hive for a few more days, but she doesn't like the idea of starving in the meantime. The phantom sensation of grime and cold metal floor prickles against her skin, but she pushes the memories back.
That won't be enough. Izuku hums in thought. Does anyone have any food? I've got some of those goo pouches.
I've got some granola bars, Mina says, pulling out 4 packaged rectangles from her coat's inner pockets. Ochako says, Just got candy here. I have those chocolatey nut things, Mei chimes, patting her backpack.
I only have water,
Denki complains.
Idiot, Katsuki scolds. I've got enough protein bars for 1 each.
So maybe not a couple of days, Izuku observes.
I think we can last 1 or 2 before it gets uncomfortable.
So 2 days, Ochako offers.
2 days and then we are out of here,
Katsuki agrees.
Wait, Denki says. Do you think the bees brought us here because of the storm? Like, they were all going back to the hive when we got here. They must have known.
Bees are the best, Mei grins in agreement. Ochako looks down at the one still cradled in her arms. Is that what you guys were doing? The bee seems to buzz in agreement. After an hour of wandering, they found a nice little nook to settle down in. It was close enough to a small hole in the exterior of the tree that they could hear the background thrum of the wind from where they sat. They'd have to delve back through the body of the hive to re-find their way out, but exits were pretty easy to spot. Mina giggled beside her as a bee licked purple glowing honey off her wrist from where it had spilled. Mei was sitting atop a bee of her own, a glob of honey being heated by a taken apart and fiddled with blowtorch. Izuku, the only other one of them awake at a time their bodies were telling them they should be asleep, was carefully sat in the middle of the nook, as far away from the honeycomb walls as possible, writing in a notebook in a pile of bees. Mei couldn't place exactly when their fuzzy entourage had showed up, but after their small bee companion seemingly had buzzed a conversation with a sheep-sized bee from earlier, the creatures had continued to find them. They weren't disturbing her experimenting, so Mei was more than happy to have the company. Her experiment wasn't really going places, despite the over half a day they'd already been here. Not that she was really expecting any more. She'd been running through any test when it came to tech uses it could have, but nothing was jumping out at her. It could conduct energy pretty well, but that was it. She was currently seeing how it reacts to heat. Heat capacity, thermal conductivity, boiling temperature. Given she was heating globs of honey in a glass container with a modified blowtorch on the back of a giant bee, the results wouldn't be exact, but they'd give her some information. Who knows, maybe space honey is the best insulator there is, and their ship walls should be filled with the stuff. When the nectar began to bubble, Mei tipped the mixture onto a small piece of scrap metal. It hissed a little before settling down. The amber color that had deepened during its boiling lightened as it cooled off, fading into a translucent substance. It took all her control not to poke it with her bare hands, but she fished out her spare stylus and gave a poke to the still cooling mixture. When she tried to pull her pen back, a sticky trail of honey followed it. But it wasn't like liquid honey anymore. This strand held its shape when she held the pen in place. Mei waited as long as she felt was reasonable before giving the pen a tug. She'd expected the strand to snap or shatter, but now that it was cooled, the honey held. It had a little give to it, but the pen stayed firmly connected to the honey bond. Now that there wasn't a risk of burnt skin, she gave the blob a poke. It wasn't sticky like honey. It was smoothly textured, like those rubber balls you saw as kids that you wanted to bite into. The description was even more apt when she touched it and it started to glow an orange amber. She tried to get her fingers under the base of the glob to remove it from her metal, but no matter how she pried, it stayed in place. "Wow, that's pretty strong," Izuku commented, notebook forgotten in his lap. "And it still glows," Mina added. "Did I tell you how much I love the mood ring glowing? Can we just stick some globs of that stuff to our costumes and bring the glowing with us?" "I think that would be pretty silly," Izuku chuckled, then paused. "But that stuff does make pretty good adhesive that's translucent. Depending on how it reacts to fabric, it could be used like fabric glue. It might even be able to patch up the cuts without needing to sew it in place." "Oh my god, please," Mina enthused. "That would be glowy and convenient. It was so annoying to fix the suits after the Oxyus fight. The biggest cut was my undersuit, which needed to be basically melted back together, but that was so much easier than stitching." Mei grinned, endless possibilities already running through her head. "Are we gonna make a baby together?" "I think improving on an old one is more accurate, but yes," Izuku enthused. "We must collect all the honey we can carry back to the ship," Mei declared. "If we melt honey and shape it while it's warm into containers, we should be able to carry more," Izuku mused. Mina cheered. "All right." "Shut the fuck up," Katsuki grumbled, half asleep in a pile of bees and the other two teens.